I'd like to welcome everyone to our London City Council meeting. If you will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll take our roll call. Mr. Eads?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Here.
Mr. Robinson? Here. Mr. Hayes?
Present.
Mr. Hitt?
Here.
And Mr. Stahl?
Present.
Good to see everyone this evening. And have you had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our last meeting? Do you have any questions, changes, corrections? All right. All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. And we do not have any public hearings this evening, no communications and announcements. So on to our audience. Oh, yeah. Do you have something? Yes. I have something here, maybe that's it. Oh, I sure do. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. And this is for Sunday. This is for Sunday. Did you check this out?
So I believe it's, well, from my understanding, it looks like a transfer. It's a D5 and a D6 for Matt. From my understanding, it's a transfer. It's a D5 and D6 for Mad Cow.
So from, let's see here. Yeah, it says transfer. Yeah, I just got this in my mailbox. Yeah, D5 to a D6. And let's see.
No, D5 and D6, and then it's transferring to Mad Cow.
And that is, okay, yeah,
That's what it looked like to me.
I see it here. Permit class of D5, D6. Doing business as Mad Cow. And this is for their liquor license transferring to Mad Cow. Yes, I do have that here. So that is in our communications and announcements. We do have this liquor license. F&M Enterprises Incorporated doing business as Mad Cow Bar and Grill. And this is the new restaurant here on High Street. This says first floor and patio only. And they are transferring a D5 and D6 liquor license. So all in favor of approving the liquor license, say aye.
They're transferring to Mad Cow?
To Mad Cow.
So doing business as is going to transfer to Mad Cow.
F&M Enterprises Incorporate doing business as Mad Cow. So F&M is transferring to Mad Cow.
Okay.
No, they're doing business as Mad Cow.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not transferring.
I don't think that's correct.
So they're doing
So
business
F&M or whatever, DBA, right,
is Mad Cow.
is Mad Cow. So that's their LLC. So they're
Correct.
doing business as Mad Cow.
Cow.
The initial transfer, there's nothing in that box. But see how there's an empty box? So,
See a transfer type, permit class D5, D6.
so it is my assumption that the past owners had the liquor license in it. They are now in the process of transferring it into their LLC or
Into Mad Cows.
into.
Okay, and yeah, and there's nothing in this second box down here from them to them. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So this is the company that was there before transferring their liquor license to Mad Cow. 'Cause there's-
That's the
Okay.
way I took it.
Got it. I wish I had gotten this earlier, but I didn't, so I have it now. So this is the previous company transferring the D5 and D6 to Mad Cow. So all in favor of approving this liquor license, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. on to our audience concerns. First, we have Mr. Doug Piles. You have, state your name, address. You have 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
My name's Doug Piles. I live at 323 Bishop Drive. I have two issues I want to address tonight. The first one is the public has no access to read or review any of the legislation you're considering. I can print out the agenda for tonight, but none of the things that you're voting on are available for our review. Now, what is available for review is everything you have acted on. That's history. But I have no idea of any of the items you're bringing up or the content or the details of that. That's wrong. You're holding the information away from the public. You need to address that and take care of it, okay? Because it should have the exhibits, it should have the maps, everything that you're talking about should be available for the public to see before you vote on it, all right? Second thing is I want to address is some pending legislation I think you have regarding new fees and structure for the entities of BPU, all the entities of BPU. And I think you're misleading the public a little bit. Because when this is all said and done, any individual that gets a BPU bill, they open the bill, they're going to see increases of 9%. Each one of these entities, the way you have it, are each going to get 3% every year. That represents 9%. The second thing is, this is going to go on forever. Every year, regardless of the job that BPU does, they're automatically guaranteed a 9% increase, which we're going to have to eat. Why don't you put a limit on that? I mean, what happens if they wind up with $4 to $5 million of carryover with this new structure? That's not fair. They're not in the banking business. Well, the first thing they're going to say, we can spend it. They'll spend it. But that's unfair. It's 9% is what we're going to see. I think you should put a limit on it and see how the finances are going to come out for each one of these entities at a period of time. 2 years, 3 years, maybe, 4 years. But not a permanent increase that goes on forever, ever, ever, ever. Because you're telling the public every year you're going to see a 9% increase in their bill. Period. You keep talking to the public, 3% here, 3% there, but that gets compounded. It's one bill. Each one of the three entities are going to get 3% every year, regardless of the job you do. So why don't you wait, put a limit on how long you have this so that you can measure their performance financially at the end of a period of time to decide whether you want to keep it going or whether they're already making enough money from it, you might want to hold it back. That's good business. It's unfair for a lifetime period increase. That you can't do that. You can't do that. That's wrong for you all. That's not being responsible to the property owners. That's unfair. That's my point. Okay? Reconsider that legislation, because I think the legislation you're looking at to vote on, it's permanent. It's permanent forever. 9% per year forever. You comfortable with that? I'm not.
Thank you. Next, we have Anita Likens. Please state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes, please.
Hello,
Hello.
thank you. Anita Likens, 157 East First Street, reading continuation from February the 2nd's council meetings on the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. This is the syllabus issued as of June 24th, 2022. The Supreme Court held that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Roe and Casey are overruled, and the authority to regulate abortion is overturned to the people and their elected representatives. The critical question, as the Supreme Court saw it, is whether the Constitution, properly understood, confers a right to obtain an abortion. Guided by the history and tradition that map the essential components of the nation's concept of ordered liberty, the court finds that the 14th Amendment clearly does not protect the right to an abortion. Under the latter part of the 20th century, there was no support in American law for a constitutional right to obtain abortion. No state constitutional provision had recognized such a right. Until a few years before Roe, no federal or state court had recognized such a right, nor had any scholarly treaty. Indeed, abortion had long been a crime in every single state. At common law, abortion was criminal in at least some states of pregnancy and well regarded as unlawful and could have very significant and serious consequences at all stages. American law followed the common law until a wave of statutory restrictions in the 1800s expanded criminal liability for abortions. By the time the 14th Amendment was adopted, 3/4 of the states had made abortion a crime at any stage of pregnancy. This consensus endured until the day Roe was decided. Roe either ignored or misstated this history, and Casey declined to reconsider Roe's faulty historic analysis. I'm not reading what I think. I am reading what the Supreme Court noted in their syllabus. Respondents' arguments that this history does not matter flies in the face of the standard the court has applied in determining whether an asserted right that is nowhere mentioned in the Constitution is nevertheless protected by the 14th Amendment. The Solicitor General repeats Roe's claim that it is doubtful. Abortion was never firmly established as a common law crime, even with respect to the destruction of a quick fetus. 410 U.S. at 136, but the great common law authorities, Bracton, Koch, Hale, and Blackstone, all wrote that a post-quickening abortion was a crime. Moreover, many authorities asserted that even a pre-quickening abortion was unlawful, and that as a result, an abortionist was guilty of murder if the woman died from the attempt. The Solicitor General suggests that history supports an abortion right because of the common law's failure to criminalize abortion before quickening. But the insistence on quickening was not universal. Regardless, the fact that many states in the late 18th and early 19th century did not criminalize pre-quickening abortions does not mean that anyone thought the states lacked the authority to do so. Instead of seriously pressing the argument that the abortion right itself has deep roots, supporters of Roe and Casey contend that the abortion right is an integral part of a broader entrenched right. Roe termed this right to privacy, and Casey described it as a freedom to make intimate and personal choices that are central to personal dignity and autonomy. Ordered liberty sets limits and defines this boundary between competing interests. Roe and Casey each struck a similar balance between the interests of a woman who wants an abortion and the interest of what they term potential life. Roe, Casey, and their sites. But the people of the various states may evaluate these interests differently. The nation's historic understanding of ordered liberty does not prevent the people's elected representatives from deciding how abortion should be regulated. Finally, the court decides whether a right to obtain abortion is part of a broader entrenched right that is supported by other precedents. The court concludes that the right to obtain an abortion cannot be justified as a component of such a right. Attempts to justify abortion through appeals to a broader sense to autonomy and to define one's concept of existence proves too much. Those criteria at a high level of generality could license fundamental rights to illicit drug use, prostitution, and the like. What sharply distinguishes the abortion right from the rights recognized in the cases which Roe and Casey rely is something that both these decisions acknowledge. Abortion is different because it destroys what Roe determines is potential life, and what the law challenged in this case calls an unborn human being. None of the other decisions cited by Roe and Casey involved the critical moral question posed by abortion. Accordingly, those cases do not support the right to obtain an abortion, and the court's conclusion that the Constitution does not confer such a right does not undermine them in any way. I'll stop there. I think that's pretty clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Tommy Boyd. Please say your name, address, and you have 5 minutes, please.
Good evening. I'm Tommy Boyd, 48 North Union Street. The first one is a quick one that's still being brought up. The lights on the Art Guild. We've talked about maybe shades or just replacing them. Nothing we can do, or what are we thinking?
I had my street superintendent check that out just this week.
Perfect.
And the conclusion is, it's the bus compound lights that's shining bright, it's not the arts building light.
Okay.
And that's out of our jurisdiction.
School on that one then?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The second one was something that was kind of brought up at one of the prior committees. I'm trying to think, the Civil Service or Properties Committee, I think it was. But it was about the brick street on Fourth next to the courthouse. We kind of briefly said, hey, it needs something done, and then we said, let's tear it out and pave over it. Is that something we can look into keeping? Or did I miss you on that?
That's not what was said.
Okay.
It was brought up about that road when I brought up that we need to get back on the schedule of paving roads out of Capitol. And that road was brought up, and the issue is to either fix that road and pull it out and put the bricks back down, or just to put in blacktop is gonna be very, very, very costly. Because if you do the bricks,
It's gonna be time.
it's gonna be
But,
time,
yeah.
it's gonna be a lot of money to have to do that. Either way, you have to put a new base down. So you're talking about ripping all those out, not just, the repairs that we do.
Creating a street schedule
On-
for parking, all of it. I
Yeah.
agree, and that's what I'm hoping we can
So
look
that,
into.
that was just, there was just an initial conversation, but
Okay.
the cost is, we felt that, instead of being able to go out and fix 4 or 5 roads, that's about the amount of money it would probably take to fix that one small block.
Do
So
we have many others that are brick streets?
that is the only one that I know of.
So I'm hoping that we can keep it and, we'll find the money. That's kind of the thought on something like that. But, okay, on to the next pieces. The more fun ones. Going through BPU expenses and revenue. One thing I was kind of looking at is improvements, pretty much section of it. Do I have it correct that the improvements expansion is pretty much what's going into the sewer system each year as kind of what we're fixing up, or anything on that?
You
Pretty
talk
much.
about budgeted line items?
Yeah,
That would
within
be-
improvements.
Improvements, it could be anything that's done to the plant itself, or it could be infrastructure. It could be.
Because,
or a
yeah, we
combination
had
of the two.
capital improvements also, which would be our buildings
There's-
and machinery.
Yeah, I don't know.
But-
There's Richard. You got any more insight on that, Richard?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Pretty much is the improvements from the expansions or expenses paid, budget, just showing, hey, what have we been doing to the infrastructure of this city?
You mean the annual budget?
Yes.
For the department?
Yes,
And you're asking about
improvements made to the
an
city.
item in the budget, or?
Yeah, it's a specific section.
Yes, basically we use that for, if I understand your question, we use it to replace pumps or make repairs in the plant that we need to make.
Not like redoing the lines.
And redoing lines as they break
Okay.
down, as they need to be
Yep.
repaired.
That's good.
I don't-
Thank you.
But it's not for any major expansion.
I get you. And I'll kind of come back to that one also as we go. So Amherst Boulevard flooding. Is that something we think is from the pipes or infrastructure being old? Or why do we think that Amherst Boulevard is having flooding issues enough to need this $13 million pipe?
I think that a lot of the questions you're asking, they're gonna be answered possibly later when we meet that legislation. So if you could go with your questions and then,
I mean,
and then we'll present the legislation later. And then
Okay.
if they're not answered then they could answer them during that legislation.
I'm gonna be leaving after this, actually. I've gotta get to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
For a funeral tomorrow. So, that's where it's kind of more of a, we should have an idea. Is that backup from old pipes that aren't cleared enough? Or is that just from the expansion of houses that have been added out that way? because that's kind of my thought right now, is that this is something that we're having to deal with because of the amount of houses we have built.
I think that a lot of what we're dealing with is the wear and tear of the current infrastructure that we have. I think that even if we did not have new houses coming into our area, that our pipes and our infrastructure would still be falling apart. Because we're just now experiencing growth with housing and everything. A lot of the houses aren't even built yet. And we've had the same issues, you know, as some people say, they've lived in the city for 32 years and they get flooding all the time. So it's definitely not something new, and it's not because of the new growth that we have. It's because of our failing infrastructure, which is the reason why this legislation was brought.
And I understand your viewpoint. I guess I would say otherwise. It's kind of, there has been a good amount of growth out that way. And so with us seeing that, it's kind of the main question of, if that's something that we have been saying, hey, we want to be building more houses, we want to continue to develop that area. You know, why is that something that the city isn't helping to offset a little bit? Is the city able to help offset that loan that you might be having put on us to do? You know, it's, all right, you're all looking at me, never mind. However, I'll just go with it. How about the developers that tap into that new sewer line? Is that one that can go towards the loan?
So every time somebody gets a sewer tap fee, yes, we collect fees from them.
The large development, I'm expecting probably about $1 million.
Okay, so those will come in as they tap, right?
Okay.
It could be, Pulte said that it's gonna take 10, 15 years to build out, right? So they don't just come in and give you $1 million check up front for all the taps that they could potentially do. Housing market could crash again. I mean, we don't know what the future holds.
Most business groups I talk to, they expect the money when they make the deal. But I understand you. And so, I get you, but I mean, if the BPU is being seen as a business, you know, if somebody wants to put something into my line, I'm gonna expect
Okay.
for you to be able to pay
Well,
to get into
there's a
it.
difference between business and government, so,
I get you.
okay.
And so, with all that pretty much being said, it's mostly, we're asking for this $18 million. After looking at the expenses and the improvement lines, over the last 2 years between sanitation and sewer, only $65,000, $65,047.28 has been put into it. And so, for us to now ask for $18 million and to have only spent 65 from a city department, I think that's one that we could look into improving. And so, I'll kind of finish up there. But the last question would be, you know, why are we allowing changes to be made in the last 9 months of a 4-year term? I've given the solution to the water plant. I've asked the water department what they need to serve this city better. And then we've thrown a $13 million project on top of it. We need to get the water plant done, fix the infrastructure that is broken, and then we can begin to look into more expansion. Doing all of this at once will not help the fire levy pass in May.
5 minutes.
And I don't, can I finish this? Okay.
You may, but just
Thank
letting
you.
you know.
It's
you're at the
within
end of your
10
minutes.
seconds.
Thank you.
And I don't want to see what cuts they will have to take. Please don't leave our future with a failing fire department, no community center, and citizens that feel so overwhelmed from rate and tax increases that they have no interest in future levies down the road. We will get these projects done, but please say no tonight and request new legislation for $5 million worth of work that we need to have done so we can move our way on to larger projects later on. I hope the rest of the night goes well for you guys. I will be heading out to Pennsylvania, so I'm sorry I'll be missing the rest. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, that's all we have for our audience concerns. On to our committee reports. We'll begin with Mr. Eads.
Well, we did have Finance Committee. Many of those items that were discussed are going to come up tonight in legislation. Can't think of anything other than, just looking through my notes real quick, can't think of anything other than what's probably going to show up tonight that we need to talk about. So almost all of that's in new business tonight. We'll discuss it as we go.
Okay. Is that all you have?
That's what Greg said, finance meeting. We'll be discussing that legislation.
Okay. Ms. Robinson?
Just nothing other than March 1st is the next public service.
Okay. Mr. Hayes?
Attended Safety Services Committee meeting, February 13th. We approved the minutes. We accepted London Police Division's report. Mr. Stahl will give that report to you. We accepted the London Fire and the EMS report, and Mr. Hitt will give that to you. Safety Service Director, as a result of a February planning meeting, it was brought forth to rezone from B1 to R3, the area known as Lexington Green. Motions were made, a second. The motion was approved. It will be on tonight. Also, Lincoln Avenue rezoning from B1 to R3. Motion was brought forth, seconded. Motion was approved. That will be on the agenda for tonight. Mr. Long came to the safety meeting. I have legislation will be here tonight without going through all that, but basically, we're going to transfer some money that we got back. We're going to transfer it into another fund, reappropriate it, so that Mr. Long can get some things for the trucks. I'll be sponsoring that legislation. We talked about in old business, we talked about feral cats. There's a lot of information on this issue. Possible legislation is forthcoming for this issue involving funds to start a program that would greatly reduce the population of these poor animals. Tammy Braskett and Dave Mabe, very involved with this. And at this time, Mr. President, if you will allow Tammy Braskett to come forth to give her information on this issue, it would be greatly appreciated, and I cede my time to Tammy.
All right. Yes, please, thank you, Tammy. If you, yeah, you should just use the microphone there. Thank you.
As Rich said, I'm gonna go through some information for you guys. I'm hoping that it brings some awareness to you. There also is there's a resource out there that's, in my opinion, very economical. I gave you guys all the CAT multiplier. And if you can imagine, I'm gonna use Brian as an example. Brian takes his kid out to somebody's farm that has a litter of kittens. His kid wants to take one of the kittens home. It's a little female kitten. Brian says, no, we're not taking that cat home. And at the end of the day, Brian takes the cat home. At about 6 months, the cat goes in heat. And if anybody's ever been around a female cat in heat, it's obnoxious. Cat's been outside before. Brian says, we're gonna put the cat outside for a little while. It'll be all right. He goes outside an hour later, the cat's gone, never to be seen again. The cat lights and ends up about 3 streets over, and she has been bred and she's pregnant. 60 days later, she has a litter of kittens, 4, 5, 6 kittens. Half of them are females. This female cat goes on, bred again, pregnant again, only to have another litter 60 days later. The first litter of kittens she had, 6 months later, is able to be bred and has another litter of kittens, and so forth and so on. Within, 6, 7, 8 months, you're looking at the addition of about 50 to 60 cats. A feral cat is a cat that is not owned by anybody. It has not had human touch, and as kids, we called them just wild cats. I know Henry knows a lot about this because he deals with them down behind his place. Dave Mabe he's been hung up at his business tonight. In 5 years, he said he's trapped about 50 and had them spayed and neutered. There is a program that is under Cat Welfare Association in Columbus. They have a website. I encourage everybody to get on there and just read up about them. Madison County falls under their umbrella. They have a program that helps this situation. Here's an application. You fill out this application, you send it in with a $10 check or a $10 money order. Cat Welfare will issue a voucher that will spay and neuter 8 cats at $10 per cat, which is pretty cheap. Considering a vet, you're looking at $100 plus. And that is why the problem has increased and accelerated so much. In the $10, the cat gets a vaccine. The cat is trapped by the resident. Once they get their voucher, they call our vet clinic that does it is Sunnyside, set up an appointment, they set their traps. If they got 3 appointments, hopefully they catch 3 cats, they take them in, Sunnyside spays or neuters them. The resident picks the cats up, brings them home, and the next day they turn them loose. Also, if it is in the summertime, more likely summertime, the cats have fleas, they put a Capstar on them, which kills the fleas immediately. I don't know how many of you are aware that if you take an animal that has fleas into a vet clinic, they're gonna put a Capstar on them because they can't have fleas in their vet clinic. You don't want people bringing their pets in there and getting fleas. If anybody up there has questions, everybody has my cell phone number, give me a call. But this program, it doesn't get any better than this. What we're asking is that the city set up a fund and help residents take care of the voucher fee and the $10 copay that is required. We're addressing it as reimbursement. In other words, the resident will have things that they need to do and turn into the city and being reimbursed for what their cost is. I know that folks say that it's not my problem. It's everybody's problem right now. This problem is getting so bad. My own thought is that 5, 10 years down the road, the government is going to require you to do something because it's that bad. I know some of you know where there's pockets of cats in the city and people are feeding them. And I don't think people are going to stop feeding them. But to say that there's something out there where you can get them altered cheaply, this is the answer. It's not going to get any better than this. So if anybody has questions, please give me a call. Okay?
And I just wanted to point out on here, this information you gave us, it says that an unspayed female cat, her mate, and all of their offspring producing 2 litters per year. It says with just 2.8 surviving kittens per litter, it can total, after 9 years, 11,606,077 cats. That is, and that's if only 2.8 survive out of a litter.
Right. I've taken
Those are
some feral
amazing
cats
numbers.
down from behind the police station. They were kittens, and I was trying to tame them. I put them in a cage, worked with them. I took 4 home. 2 ended up tame. 2 ended up not, still wild. And of course, one of them were female, and she gifted me with 8 more cats. And they're adults now, and they're mine for the rest of their lives. That's going on everywhere in this city. And my thing is, you have residents that are feeding them, and they have no resources. And you give them an opportunity, they may take advantage of this and start heading off this problem. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next Safety Service Committee meeting will take place on March the 14th at 5 PM in the conference room. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hitt.
I'll read through the report that the fire chief gave at the safety committee meeting this past Tuesday. For EMS, they had training in environmental emergencies. As far as fire training, they had cold water rescue training. They participated in the health department's tabletop exercise, which involved radiological emergencies. They attended the London Health and Rehab Open House. They began paramedic refresher courses, and they submitted applications for a FEMA grant, which goes to the exhaust system. I believe that was at the Center Street, or just in general, both places? Both places. And there would be a 10% match. That grant is $108,000. The Ohio Department of Public Safety and EMS grant, they applied for that. That's a $2,500 grant, which goes towards equipment and training. They applied for Ohio State Fire Marshal's equipment grant, which would go toward, it's a $15,000 grant. It would go towards battery-operated rescue tools. That's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stahl?
I attended the Finance Committee and also the Public Safety, and I have the Police Division. We're continuing to search for applicants for the 3 open officer positions and are working with the Civil Service Commission to facilitate an ongoing application period. Sergeant Linda Sullivan retired on the 28th after serving 26 years with LPD. Also, Dylan Myers has completed a certification from his basic academy and is currently in field training. Sergeant Donovan Cooper graduated from the Certified Law Enforcement Executive Training Program, a year-long master's level program conducted by the Ohio Chiefs and Police Association. Sergeant Joe Cox has started in the 2023 class for CLEE. Sergeant Joe Harris was promoted to sergeant on February 6th. We're obtaining an architecture estimate for renovating some space in the building for a couple of offices and a secure conference room and improved workflow. They was awarded a grant from the National Park Institute, National Police Institute, I should say, for the Rural Violent Crime Reduction Initiative. The award will be utilized towards the purchase and implementation of flock safety cameras. This is a 100% reimbursable award. The 2022 year-end report was completed and emailed to the city officials and is available online. They experienced an increase in overtime usage this month with 2 officers off on extended leave and the shortage of new hires. The new body camera system was implemented February 1, and the 2021 grant was also closed with the award to be received in approximately 4 weeks. The new system will allow the older cameras that will no longer be supported by the maintenance plan to be utilized for officers working special duty and other events where more than 10 body cameras are utilized at the same time. 2 minor crashes occurred with the vehicles recently. One unmarked vehicle was struck by a 4-way stop with a minor front-end damage. The other crash involved a vehicle at a traffic stop rolling back into a marked cruiser. No damage to the cruiser. They presented the civilian response to active shooter events to the Safety Council of Madison County Chamber. Car number 15 is out of service pending an evaluation for engine issues at the Ford dealership. A notable incident is a 16-year-old male at London High School brought a loaded handgun to school. The weapon was discovered in his locker. After a tip to the school administration, he was charged with illegal conveyance and possession of a handgun. 3 other juveniles were charged with obstructing official business due to their actions during the investigation. There's no known immediate threat to utilization of their weapons at school. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a quick question. I'll let you decide which way you want to go with this. There was a special meeting of the Board of Public Utilities,
And I was going to cover that.
which I,
Or
okay.
you, if you have some notes, you can cover that, because I was going to say everything's covered in our legislation. If you have some specific.
Well, that's up
points.
to you. If you want me to cover
Yeah,
it now,
you
I'm
can-
just
you
going to
can do
say it,
that
because
now.
I didn't think about that as one of my committees. So if you don't mind, I'll bring some of these things up. So there was a special meeting of the Board of Public Utilities to address the issues which we're going to discuss tonight. I think there's some confusion that we need to clear up. This is my opinion, but from these notes, not all of the money that's going to be collected is going to go to debt service. There is going to be money that goes towards operations. We spent some time discussing that. Mr. Lalonick kind of explained or said that it was not really a separate line. It all comes from the same pool of money. At the last meeting, I believe that it was shared that there was going to be $20.83, which was going to be the increase. That is the increase. He used that number to say that would pay the debt service. That's an incorrect number because $2, and I believe $2.35 is an increase for the trash service only. That money's not going to be applied. Mr. Skaggs has given me the thumbs up that I got that right. Thank you. So $2.35 is going to be applied just for their services. That is not part of the debt service that we're going to look at. There's also a 3% increase on water, which is 51 cents. Now, that was, in the discussion, still considered as part of what they're going to pay for the debt service. So instead of the $20.83, it's actually going to drop that down to like $18.48 or something like that. I think was the number, $18.48, on a monthly basis per water bill. So it made me question whether or not there was gonna be enough money in that account. Based just on that number, I don't think there would have been enough money. However, what we didn't know is the commercial water rate increase, they are using that as part of their projections to pay this debt. That's $22,000 a month. So with the number, and there's another thing, I think Carol's still here. I got a number from Carol, and we didn't talk about this at the meeting, gentlemen. I got a number from Carol that there's 3,891 counts currently. Steve Lalonick seemed to think that it was just based on 3,500 accounts, but the legislation says all accounts, whether they're commercial or not. So we're actually gonna use that number times the 3,891. It will bring up a question that I want answered later about the 51 cents, whether we're still using that within the debt service that you expect, or that is gonna be operational. But by using the math, I think that they do have enough money for what they want to project, that they need. We did discuss, to address what Mr. Piles said earlier, we did discuss the 3% annual increase. I personally am not in favor of that 3% annual increase. Mr. President disagrees, and he can cover his part in a minute. However, at the discussion about whether it's going to be 3% forever, that was addressed. Mr. Skaggs agreed with me that he's personally not for 3% every year thereafter. However, Chairman Vest and Mr. Lalonick both stated that they were in favor of keeping that moving forward. And then we did talk about some debt service and what happens when this is paid off. And all three of the gentlemen pretty much said that they would want to keep those charges in place, even when the debt service is paid. The other thing that came up that I think we should consider later is that prepayment. So these are not bonds. Bonds you can't really prepay, but loans you can. So if they have extra money because of whatever, because they collect more than they expected, the loans, and I do want everyone to know this, the loans that they're considering in the worksheet that Mr. Lalonick handed out showed, for example, the large $13 million project. It says 30 years at 4%, and the monthly payoff $62,816. He is, at this point, basing that on 4%, even though 4% is not the right number. This is a little higher than what is currently out there. So these numbers could come down a little bit, but we don't know exactly what they're going to be yet. However, the discussion about being able to prepay these things, they said that they would be interested in discussing that later, but they didn't want to commit. So that's just something that maybe we should consider looking at. So I wasn't really expecting to give this, but I just wanted to say that we did have that. If you ask me, the numbers that they're projecting, they work out even though the math was incorrect, but it worked out the other way. I think they had that part right. And so they just, I think, wanted to clear up any questions if anybody went to the meeting. And so I just thought I'd share that with everyone.
Okay, and I think on that debt service, there's a cushion of about $6,000 per month. And they do calculate the interest rates higher than they are currently, and that is to also to protect ourselves just in case interest rates do go higher. So you always want to calculate that in. So with rates now, they're what are the rates now?
They were at 3.5. I think that's what Mr.
Okay,
Lalonick was basing somewhere in there.
Right, so if they're at 3.5 now, and if rates go up to 4%, that's a huge increase. And I'm not sure that the rates would go up that high that quick. I think if they did that, that's not a good sign for the whole United States. So I think that's prudent for them to adjust that interest rate projected higher than it really is. So that way we protect ourselves. So I do agree with that 100%. And then also with that 3%, so I think that with our $18 million that we're asking for, we actually need more than that. The infrastructure in our city is so bad that, we're just asking for 18 million, and we actually need a lot more than that. As you can see and hear the accounts of the community when they come and they tell about the things in their own personal houses and everything. So I think we need more than 18 million. So, all right, on to our city official reports.
All right, thank you. So a couple of these things was already covered by Mr. Hayes, but I did have the honor and privilege of swearing in Sergeant Joseph Harris as his new role as sergeant for the London Police Department. And I want to congratulate Sergeant Harris on his promotion and also thank him for his service to the great city of London. And as we said, Officer Myers is now on the street, and congratulations to Sergeant Cooper on receiving his CLE. I attended London Health and Rehab's open house, and I want to thank them for having me out. Mr. Hayes did speak on the Planning Commission. We did have a meeting last week, and we heard 2 cases. The first case, which is a planned unit development in the area of Elm Street and Kinney Boulevard, and the plan changes were approved by the Planning Commission and is now in front of you all for final approval. They also approved a small block in Lincoln Avenue, Fairview Avenue, Antietam Avenue, and Toland Street to be rezoned from a B1 business district to an R3 residential district. This is a full residential area already, and just wanted to have the use line up correctly to what is already currently there. This is also in front of City Council tonight, and both pieces of legislation will need a public hearing. I taught a week-long junior achievement class at London Elementary School to Mrs. King's first grade class last week. This class centered around neighborhoods, and they learned about business, jobs, money, needs, and wants. The class was great, and the kids were fantastic. I always advocate for junior achievement because it is such a wonderful program for the kids, and they do learn a lot. So if anyone's ever interested in junior achievement or volunteering or teaching, we run through the junior achievement of the Mad River region. I ask that you just contact them. I was able to attend the Friends of Madison County Parks and Trails Pancake Breakfast and the Downtown Chocolate Walk this past Saturday. Both events were very well attended and seemed to bring a lot of people to our community. The Madison County Chamber of Commerce had their ribbon cutting for the historic Red Brick Tavern on Monday. The event was very well attended, and many people are very excited about the new restaurant opening back up. If you haven't been in there, they have been able to do a lot of work to that old building, and it looks so nice. So just want to wish them the best of luck on their future. I visited London Middle School, London Elementary, and St. Patrick's with the Division of Fire and EMS, along with Fire Pup, the safety mascot. And we delivered Valentine's Day cards to all the youth, and just was able to talk to the kids and bring Fire Pup in, which is a very large mascot. So, you know, thanks to them and thanks to the Division of Fire and EMS for doing such great outreach programs and getting out into the community. The Historic Review Board met and approved signage for 25 South Main Street. This building will be occupied by Sammy Faye's, which is like a small cafe, like cafe-style restaurant, and they're looking to open the cafe sometime in March. The Mary Mac Miracle Group will be holding an indoor double elimination cornhole tournament this Saturday, the 18th at 1 p.m. This fundraiser is for the park out at Mary Mac, and it'll be held here at City Hall, and the cost is $40 per team. Sign-ups will begin around noon, and they'll have concessions available, so if you want to come have a good time for a great cause, Mary Mac Miracle Group is having their indoor double elimination cornhole tournament. FYI, the city government will be closed on Monday for observance of President's Day. So as a reminder, if your trash pickup day is Monday, it will be moved to Wednesday next week. So just FYI. Now on to the fun fact, which is the number 1. I have started a Mayor's Weekend update once a week on Saturday. This update will encompass what I had been up to in the past week, what's going on around the city with the local government and with the committees. This is just another way that we are trying to get as much information out to the citizens as we possibly can. So you'll be able to find those updates on social media, and we're going to start working to get them on the website soon. So it's pretty much talk about everything that you guys all talked about in your committee reports, and everything else encompassed. So just trying to get that out. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our old business. We do have one table item there. It's ordinance 151-22. And understand that will remain there.
Correct.
Okay, and on for, next, our third reading, ordinance 11523, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, ordinance 11523, sponsored by Rich Hayes and Henry Comer, an ordinance amending section 104805 of the codified ordinances. Go ahead with that, Rich.
Going to pull this up here. Hang, yeah, if you have it there, yeah, great. Got too many pieces of paper here. This is for the city's received an application to change the zoning of certain properties within the city, a copy of which application is attached as,
No, that's not it.
no, it's not it. I'm sorry.
122,
115.
115.
115, you gave me 151, I'm sorry. I thought that sounded wrong when you, there we go, okay. I apologize about that. Okay, Section 104805 of the codified ordinances establishes the charges and fees for sewer service in the city of London. And whereas such an increase promotes the public health, safety, and welfare, we are wanting to raise the rates. They would start out on July 1st, 2023, and then they would progress to January 1st of 2024, and then there would be another raise on January the 1st, 2025. And then January 1st every year thereafter, there would be a 3% increase. I'd like to talk a little bit about the 3% increase. I know we've got this on, and I know that promotes ongoing things that have to be done. A lot of people have talked to me, reference to 3%. They think that it's a little bit too much to leave it on there permanently. I'm just throwing this out for everybody else's benefit, but I'm thinking maybe we go 5 years with 3% and then see where we're at that particular time. And then if we would need to leave that 3% on, we could do that at that time. But the 3% seems to be a real sticking point with a lot of people that have talked with me about it. Mr. Piles raised that tonight. A couple of other people that have held office here before have talked to me about it. And they kind of think that it's a good idea, maybe go maybe 5 years and see where we're at with the 3% increase, and then make a determination at that particular time.
I know that that's one of the big things that, I do like about this legislation is that it has the 3% built in. I think that 3% is something that we probably should have done in the past. And I think if we had done that in the past, we may not be in the position that we are currently in with our infrastructure, because we would always have dollars there. I know that the finance department, they find themselves with an excess of dollars. So they figured out something that they could do with the excess dollars there. I think that if we put the 3% in place and we find a time where we don't need it, I'm sure that something can be done about that. Matter of fact, we spoke about this in the special BPU meeting that we had. Mr. Leilanic, he did note that, since this is a sticky point for, and it's come up several times, that, BPU would entertain the possibility of changing that, where it may just expire after a certain time. However, he and myself and Mr. Vest, we did think that that's something that should continue. And I really feel that if we have the 3% in there, that's going to benefit the city of London perpetually. With inflation, even with 3% increases, with a normal job, you get 3% increase just because of the cost of living, usually every year. Just with the cost of living, and you see what inflation's done now with gas, you can't even, it's gas prices, electric, everything. The price of everything has gone up. So I think if we do operate on the dollars that we're looking at now without an increase in the future, I think that we may find ourselves right back in the same position. The city itself, but a different council would be up here, and they would find themselves possibly, 5 years down the road from now with the same legislation that we have before us right now, that we actually can do something about it without kicking the can down the road. This has been pushed around for so long. We're a council that can actually get something done about this to put our city in a better position for our infrastructure for as long as the city's here. Any other comments?
Mr. President?
Yes.
So I agree with Councilman Hayes on this. As I said earlier, I'm going to take the slightly different look at this, in that city council, in this aspect, we are the checks and balances. If we take away the ability for us to provide checks and balances, this will go unchecked. Even though the Board of Public Utilities says they would consider revisiting it later, there would be no need to, because it would be legislated, it would be there forever. If we should change this and amend this, Mr. Hayes, to a time period, then they have to come back and justify. And I think they should come back and justify. Whether or not there's more than enough money or not enough money, then they have to come back and talk to us and say, this is why we need to do this in the future. And I think that's probably the biggest reason I think that we should do this, is to keep the checks and balances in place, limit that so that the people don't think that this is going to be forever change. And I would be in favor of amending this myself. And so I will move, after the further discussion, I will move to amend this, or Mr. Hayes can, and I'll second it. And if you have any further discussion, I didn't want to do it.
Any
How
further
are you-
discussion before we come up with a motion?
How are you thinking of amending? I mean, Rich mentioned 5 years after the 3%, and then reevaluating. Are you suggesting that after the increases, at that time, you would reevaluate?
To amend a time period to put 5 years in, because we have 3 separate ordinances we're
Well-
going to do this to.
5 years as opposed to after the initial increases occur, would it be reevaluated then?
So-
Is that what you're,
Well, so in this ordinance very specifically, it shows the three increases, the larger increases that are going to come into place. And we can discuss what we would do after that. Would I go 5 years beyond that point? I would not. That's 8 years. I would rather either leave this and take it off and not have anything after that, and just stop the payments after January 1st of 2025, and then it can be discussed. I would want to probably line all of these up with all of the ordinances down the road, since we have 3. And since all 3 of these show an increase immediately in July 1st, and then beginning January 2024, an increase of 3% there every year thereafter, I think we should limit those to the same time periods.
I don't know if you can do this or not, but could you amend it in there that it's a review after every 5 years instead of cutting it off? Because then if you cut it off, you have to bring it back up here. Has to be another piece of legislation to be processed through.
That would be what I have, not cut it off. But when we get to 5 years, then come back and take a look at it again.
I mean,
So my question is, it says January 1st, every year after there will be a 3% increase. So is that every year after January 1st, 2025? So with that 3 years, you don't have a 3% increase yet. You wouldn't begin to have the 3% increase until after 2025. So
2026 would be the first increase.
right, so wouldn't you go 5 years from 2026 so you can actually have 5 years with the increase? You would want to experience the increase, because if you go at the end of that, if you, go the 3 years, it wouldn't be 8 because it doesn't start until the end of the 3 years. And then you'll have 5 years of the increase, and then you can see where you're at 5 years after the increase, or you won't know the true effect until after that.
Well, we have the 3 increases that we're gonna legislate right now, $5.99 a year, or
But it's-
$5.99 a month
But it's not
for
the
each year.
3% increase, that doesn't start until 2026. So if you have the 3% increase, you, in actuality, have not experienced that yet until after 2026 and 5 years out from there. So, you know, if you are going to amend it, you would want to amend that 5 years out from 2026. So you can experience if the increase actually works or not.
And
You can
another-
say 5 years after that, and then 5 years thereafter.
Yeah. For the increases that occur the first 3 years, what kind of revenue does that generate? Does that generate enough revenue to pay debt services over the term of the loan, or the bond?
With a $6,000 per month cushion. You can go ahead.
The large increases that's before you, not the 3%. The large increases are calculated to cover the debt service when it kicks in. So
At that amount, they would cover
at
the
the amount that
bond
will
for
cover
the
the debt service.
for
That's
complete
all.
term of the.
And that's
The
it.
3% was designated for expense increases that we've encountered over the past few years, which is causing their funds to start to decline. That's to just help support that, to cover increased expenses. Price of, you know, like everybody else, electric has gone up, natural gas has gone up, fuel, oil, maintenance, everything's gone up. And that's what that's designated for, is the 3% is to help combat the increased expenses to operate those departments.
And to make like ongoing repairs or to failing infrastructure or whatever.
Well, if what Mr. Castle just said was that was to pay for ongoing operational costs, the 3%, that's what you're saying? So that wouldn't pay for any additional debt service at that point, that's just operational?
I mean, it all goes into the top, it's gonna cover whatever debt service, you've gotta cover it first. Then it's supposed to, it's also designated to help offset the increased costs that they've been experiencing in the past 2 years. I sat down for the BPU department and did an average on all those departments, and just operating pieces, we know salaries has gone up, that's contractually done. But just in operating alone, they've all experienced a 10 to a 12% increase in expenses over the past 2 years. So that's what that's for.
Sanitation Department operating expenses have jumped, increased 16.50.
Wow.
That's just sanitation. Sanitary sewer operating expenses went up 14.91%. Water Department operating expense has gone up 31.3%.
A lot of that has to do with the repairs and the stuff that they did, which made it higher.
Right.
But they're all encountering about like I said, a 10 to 10 to 13, 10 to 14% increase in expenses over the past 2 years.
All right. All right, do we have anything from BPU? Like to, okay. So.
We do have the gentleman here, when's he gonna, or is he gonna give any presentation or take any questions?
Yeah, he's here
Well,
if you would like to ask any questions.
Yeah, he gave his
Yeah,
presentation that.
he's here for any additional questions.
So we
'cause-
just wanted to bring him in, like Henry said, we just wanted to make sure that he was here and that he was present. We had members of the Board of Public Utilities as well as the department heads for any questions you may have.
When it comes to structural, anything like that, he's the expert. So, right now, what we're asking, what has been asked is to, put a limit on the 3% increase. And I think it should begin at 2026 and 5 years after that, and then possibly be reviewed, 5 years, every year thereafter. as Mr. Robinson said, that it wouldn't stop, but it would be reviewed, correct? So just requesting a review beginning 5 years after 2026, which would be 2031, and 5 years thereafter.
Why not do every 2 years, since council changes every 2 years?
You wouldn't necessarily have to do it just when council changes. You can do it
I'm
5
just-
years, and whoever's there is there.
I mean, that
Because
way-
you want to have enough time for it to actually take an effect and be able to measure if it's viable or not.
Are you talking about 2 years after the initial
26, right.
3 increases?
So 28 would be the first year you,
2 years after the,
right.
Well, I would say if you do 2 years, then you do 5 years after that, because, well, that technically is only 4 years, so it'd be 29,
Exactly.
and,
Exactly. So I'd say 5 years after 26.
I mean, with these first, you get 5 years of what's currently being presented, and then from that point on, you have to figure out what timetable you want to put in place to review every 5 years, 4 years, 2 years, whatever the years may be. I think 5 years, because you're gonna get more of the gist of the population that may move in, the businesses that may move in. I mean, if you do it every 2 years, you might not see the quick turnarounds. If for 5 years, you're gonna see more of the numbers that pile up, but you're gonna see the differences in the money coming in. So I would propose, and I don't know how you guys, is we find a year that we start this at, and then it's every 5 years after that. So I'd say 5 years from the first increase, and then every 5 years after that, you have a review if needed to increase, decrease the 3%.
So 2026 and every 5 years.
I would say
after.
2028 or 29, and every 5 years after that. Because you have to first put in place
You want to consider the first three,
the first increase, because that's not even a 3%.
right?
So you need to see the increase of the 3% for a couple years, and then review and say, where are we? And then every 5 years from there, whatever it may be, if you have to increase the 3%, decrease the 3%. Because we're throwing numbers out there, we don't know what the future holds. We do know everything has gone up in the history of markets, so
Yeah.
percentages are made based upon that, so. My proposal would be in 2028 would be the next review, and then every 5 years after that.
All right, what are our wishes on that? So the increase review 2028 and then every 5 years after that. And what are council's wishes on that?
I'll make an amendment to change it, or a motion to change it to first review in 2028, and every 5 years after.
a second.
All right, so we have a motion to amend for a review 2028 and to review that every 5 years thereafter. Have a first and a second. And we'll take the roll call. Mr. Eads?
No.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right. So we have an amendment and a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Second. All right. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes,
All right. So 11523 has been amended,
as adopted.
That's been adopted.
or has been adopted. Well, we adopted the amendment and adopted. Okay. Next. On to 11623, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second?
All right. Ordinance 11623, sponsored by Rich Hayes and Henry Comer, an ordinance amending section 1042 of the codified ordinances. Here we go, 116.
Okay, this is, whereas Section 1042 of the codified ordinances establishes the charges and fees for water service in the city of London. And whereas the last time water rates were passed, council did not require them to be published in our codified ordinances. Whereas such an increase promotes the public health, safety, and welfare. Now be ordained by the council of the city of London, state of Ohio. Section 1042.05 of the codified ordinances shall be and hereby is added to reflect the following. And this is the residential water rates. And basically, first 2,000 gallons is $17.63 per thousand. And then it moves on up, but as you move on up, the rates go down. If you use, for instance, if you use 30,001 to 100,000 gallons, it's $7.30 per thousand. So they increments go down as you use more. Large meter water rates, 1 inch, I'm sorry, this would be a 1 foot. Is that correct, a 1 foot?
1 inch.
1 inch, okay, I'm sorry. This is a little blurry here. 1 inch, first 8,000 gallons be 165.87 cents. And then that goes up. As the rates go up, those come down. If you're at 30,000 and 1 gallons up to 100,000 gallons, it would come down to $7.30 per thousand. That's on a 1 inch line. And then they go up all the way to an 8 inch line. So, I don't know if you want to go through all those or
No.
not.
Do we have any further questions on 11623?
Yes, Mr. President, I have the same
Yes.
question and objection. My first thing is, though, however, on 115, it was legislated here in the language of 115 that there would be an increase every year, starting in 2026 or whatever we've just changed that to. That's legislated there. However, on 116 and 117, that is not in the language of this ordinance. It is on an attachment called Exhibit A. Down at the very bottom of that, it says beginning January 1, 2024, there'll be a 3% increase, and every year after, this is after we take a rate increase effective July 1. My first question is on this, is this an acceptable document? Can we take this document that has that language at the bottom of it and say that that is part of the permanent record, which indicates that there would be a 3% increase? And secondly, I would like to, again, amend that so that it's not a 3% increase and every year after. I would still like to set a limit of time. However, if you want to align all of these to do the same thing, and if you're going to continue on until 2028 to be reviewed at that point, I understand why you would do that.
And from my understanding, yes, this document is legal and viable and goes with this legislation. We often have attachments with legislation. Let's see, and what's the date this is set to begin that?
24.
Well, the first one's going to be effective July 1st of 2023, and that is a 3% increase. That is 51 cents that they've already considered. That is a 3% increase right now. And then down below, it says beginning January of 2024, there will be a 3% increase in every year after.
Okay, so, and you're proposing to also review this in 2028? Is that what you?
Well, my proposal would be to limit this to a 3% increase for 23, 24, 25, and then and that would be the end of it until the Board of Public Utilities comes back. I'm not forwarding a different proposal than that. I'll let Mr. Robinson do that.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to amend it to review in 2028 and every 5 years after.
A second.
All right, so we have a motion to review 11623, and that was 2024, or 2028, sorry about that.
Yep.
2028, and then every 5 years thereafter. So we have a first and a second. Take roll call for the amendment. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Okay, has been amended, and now our wishes.
Move to adopt as amended.
Second.
We have a first and second to adopt as amended. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
On to Resolution 11723, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Resolution 11723, sponsored by Rich Hayes and Henry Comer, a resolution amending the current trash rates.
I think I got it here. Okay, right now sanitation is at $17.80, asking for an increase of $2.35, which would take effect on 7/1/2023. There would be one bulk pickup per month. Now you're getting two. One yard. 2 to 1 yard, okay.
You're increasing our rates.
Okay, let me read some of this here, so everybody's aware of what's going on. Weekly trash pickup rate would go to $20.15 for trash service. New residents moving into the city must pay full price for the trash cans. Additional cans may be purchased and will be picked up weekly for an additional $4.45 a can. Assistance, add $2.20 per month. Any resident who is at least 65 years of age or handicapped may apply to waive the $2.20 assistance pickup service fee. Application may be made at City of London Board of Public Utilities office. When filling out the form, you will need a photo ID and a copy of your registration for your handicap placard, parking pass, or verification that you receive SSI disability benefits. Commercial and industrial rates, 2015 month for trash service. Businesses moving into the city must pay full price for the cans, and additional cans, as I've said before, may be purchased and picked up weekly for an additional $4.45 per can. There's a $5.70 cubic yard for dumpsters. That's unchanged. Special bulk pickup rate, free 1 cubic yard pickup or drop-off. One time per month, it's $14 cubic yard beyond free pickup, and $14 minimum effective July the 1st, 2023. Special drop-off rates, $10 a cubic yard, that's unchanged. Special dumping rate, $10 a cubic yard for residential. Building material drop-off rate, $20 cubic yard, that's drop-off only. Appliances, free to drop off, $14 to pick up if in addition to the free pickup. Tire recycling, $5 per tire, $3 additional if the tire has a rim, and that's a drop-off only. Annual increase beginning January 1st, 2024. There will be a 3% increase every year.
So we're familiar with this legislation, and what are the wishes of council?
I got,
Yes.
how's come on the commercial and industrial rates, how's come the cubic yards didn't change?
On the commercial and industrial rates,
Yeah, the cubic yard.
we have some.
All the others have changed, but why didn't that change?
And if you could use the microphones, we can hear you on the recording, please. We just didn't change it.
The reason
We can
is,
hear you on the microphone. Thank you. You're familiar with that? I know, right?
He's an old and feeble.
I need my walker. Because of the increased prices of hauling the stuff away. Also, we were concerned that people were bringing stuff in from outside, correct? And because of the extra 2 yards, that's why we dropped it down to a yard. It was
No, I'm talking for commercial rates, the cubic yard for dumpsters. How come that didn't change?
Les?
Well, we're actually kind of high comparatively to other.
Thank you.
Come on. It's not on here. It does not say. I know, but she talked about January 1. So it's, no, we're not doing it.
So the commercial rate will go up 3% starting next year.
And they're talking about no change.
How's come, I'm just asking, why did, you got $5.70 per cubic yard for dumpsters, and then unchanged? I understand, yeah, it'll go up 3%.
Comparably-
How's come that didn't go up with
As I
the,
compared with what other people pay for commercial pickup, we're already kind of high. So I did want to change it.
Thank you for no change.
What is average rate?
For commercial dumpsters.
Yeah.
I've seen I won't mention any names, but Rumpke does pick up a guy in town and they're like $4 and something. And they supply the dumpsters for that pickup. So that's a lot cheaper than what we are. We don't supply the dumpsters, we sell them one, but they supply the dumpsters for this business and they're $4 and something. So, yeah, we're kind of high compared to that.
Any other questions? Good? All right, we're good. So what are our wishes here, council?
Well, once again, we have a 3% increase every year thereafter. Once again, I'll object to that.
And once again,
I'll make a motion to amend that the first review's in 2028 and every 5 years after.
do we have? a
Second.
Second, right? First and second, to amend that and to review in 2028 and every 5 years thereafter. Take roll call. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt as amended.
Second.
All right, first and second. We have a motion to,
Mr. President, I do have a question. So this change is going to go in effect initially January 1 of '24.
right. We want to keep all the review on the same schedule, 28,
I understand.
okay?
There's nothing in here for an immediate increase, nor is there anything, no, I don't see anything for July 1st on any of this year. Do you? I don't.
Sure.
And maybe that was the intent, I don't know.
It says beginning January 1st.
Were these rates go in effect on January 1st?
Oh,
For July 1st of this year?
Well,
It says January
January
It
1st
says
of next
beginning
year.
January 1st, 2024.
2024.
yeah, so this is the rates that'll start.
Yes, right here.
So start
Very bottom.
So there's no increase right now?
It says annual increase,
Where? It's not in this
Right here.
document, I'm sorry.
right here.
That's
Exit.
January,
January 1st, 2024.
but it doesn't say when it goes into effect.
When this begins, let's see here. So when does this go into effect?
If we pass it, it would.
Let's see, effective July 1st, 2023? right here.
That's a special pickup. Wouldn't be all of them.
When does this go into effect? 2023?
Yeah. That's what I've got here.
Goes into
We need
effect,
to-
then that's what I have.
We need
here,
to make
too.
sure that we amend this to go into effect on July 1st.
Yeah, it says right here, July 1st, 2023.
That's just for the,
Also, this is supposed to be,
Yeah.
it's just in one spot, but it's supposed to be on all of it.
Yeah. But
Okay,
on this page here,
Yeah, on this page,
Yeah.
yeah, it's there. But we'll have to, so we have a motion, and we have a second.
so we need to amend it again, correct?
We haven't done anything with this one
Well,
yet, have we?
what is yours show? I mean,
See, this one shows here, effective July 1st, and then this is the
Yeah.
annual increase, January 1st, 2024, 3% thereafter. But on this form here, so we'll need to make sure, it matches, because this form explains that it all starts 7/1/23.
That's water, though.
sanitation at the bottom.
The same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is different. This is 116, this is 117. 116,
Got it, Rich?
right?
Here's 115, there's 117.
Pretty sure this is paperwork. Am I reading that right?
Is that it?
The one that you're looking at right there, isn't that for 116, isn't that the water rates?
This is the same thing I had.
The 117, the sanitation,
And this is
116 is
117.
water. Yes, 116 is water.
Yeah,
115 was sewer,
117, 23.
and this is sanitation.
so what we're saying is on 117, the only thing that shows it goes into effect is the special bulk pickup. It doesn't say everything.
Everything, yeah, because it's only on one line on here.
Yeah,
It's- yeah.
so it's just showing on the special bulk pickup instead of the whole, every single item. So, I'll make a motion to amend it to,
You need to rescind your motion.
oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second on the table. We want to rescind that
I need
motion. Who made the motion?
I need to make a motion to rescind my amendment,
No,
correct?
just add, we're gonna admit,
Who made the motion to pass it? Who was that?
I believe that was John.
John? So rescind your motion to.
Rescind.
Yes, okay. To rescind your motion to. So now we need a motion to amend.
Okay. So, I'll make a motion to amend that
current rates.
the current rates go into effect July 1st,
For-
2023 for trash, and our review starts in 2028 and every 5 years after.
So we have our amendment.
No?
No, you guys already did the amendment for the review, and that passed.
Okay.
So he rescinded, now this motion
Is to amend the legislation
to go into
to go into effect
and that's
Okay.
July.
I make a motion to
Here
amend
you go.
that current rates go in effect July 1st, 2023
For trash.
for trash.
I
Okay,
second.
There we go. You got that? First
I second.
and second to amend the legislation.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes,
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes,
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl.
Yes, move to adopt as amended.
second.
All right, so adopt as amended. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
yes,
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes,
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl.
Yes.
Okay. All right. On to ordinance 11823, a motion to read by title or number.
so moved.
Second.
All right, ordinance 11823, sponsored by John Stahl, a resolution adopting the recommendations of the Planning Commission for a preliminary development plan.
This is for the Kenny Station Apartments. We're supposed to have had a public hearing on the 5th, but I think it's been changed to March 16th.
Correct. So that has.
And they have given us a new, what it looks like. But I do have a question. Maybe Rex, you could, why do they, anytime I've been on the years before, they like things lined up, streets across from each other. Why do they want this one off?
So during the planning commission meeting, some people from Kenny, on Kenny that live in the condos came out, and they felt just them trying to get onto Kenny by themselves was kind of difficult. And so when we talked about it, lining another entrance right across the way, so now besides you having to, you know, get out onto Kenny looking both ways, now you have to worry about if somebody is coming out from across the way. And the planning commission, the citizens there felt that, you know, if we moved it down, then it would make it a little bit easier for those citizens to get out of their condos.
It's just different for, always, before they always like them lined up so it's not so
Well,
many
yeah,
ins and outs.
especially when, well, when you're talking about, like, I think more main roads, especially with four-way stops, yeah, but there wouldn't be a stop on Kenny going that way, so that was, yep, and we have the chamber also right there, so,
But we need to reline as far as the middle lane for Kenny now. It's designed for 2 lanes and then a middle lane.
yeah, right now Kenny is just yellow lined right down the middle, isn't it?
I don't think it's lined at all, is it? It's
Yeah,
just in the
there's
middle
not
if
a
it is.
turn lane on Kenny, correct?
No,
this
but
section.
it was
Correct.
designed so you'd have each, you know,
Yeah.
each way plus the middle lane. That would help something with some of that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and we could talk about that.
Okay.
All right. That public hearing again is going to be held on March 16th.
Is there a reason for it to be moved?
Yeah, that was moved because the letters were not sent out to the residences.
Okay.
So we had to move that out further.
For the 30 day. And gentlemen, if you didn't notice, there is an updated map here, or updated design here, because the first one had the initial 60 units, and this has 54. Also, the first one had the 2 entrances that it showed, and this is revised to show just the 1 entrance.
All right. Thank you. New business, Resolution 12123, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Resolution 12123, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution increasing appropriations.
Oh, this is the city funding the annual July 4th fireworks. This year, we decided to go $20,000 for the fireworks, which would be on July 3rd.
That's what we did last year.
No, last year we did 15,000.
Yeah, last year was 15, so we're looking to increase that to 20.
This does not need to be an emergency, as we discussed. There's no emergency clause on it.
Correct, we did talk about how it did not need to be an emergency, but we did talk about possible suspension so we could sign the contract so we don't get left out.
Left out.
That was discussed, so, but it's ultimately council's decision.
Because from what I understand, there were some cities who were left out and they had to,
There was a local village within Madison County that got a call a week before that said that they were not gonna have fireworks. So, and our company's pretty good, and I wanna stick with them. So.
I make a motion that we go ahead and bypass the 3 reading rule.
Second.
all right, first and second to suspend. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt and a second. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right. Resolution 12223, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Resolution 12223, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
Just to read a quick part of this, whereas the pool and its facilities need some repairs, and whereas the available funds must be appropriated prior to expenditure. I did call the auditor's office today because I had a question, because to me, line number or the account code 242-300, where it says equipment lease and purchase, I thought, well, we're not leasing or purchasing anything, but I was told that this was really the only line they have in place to take money for capital improvements. So they have worked on this since last year, trying to find a company. They couldn't get bids. They finally do have a company that came in and did a bid, and I believe this is going to be split into a couple different things. $75,000 is the total, but I think they're gonna have to split it up. The sandblasting was one price, and I can look that up for you if you need me to. The painting was, pardon me?
Landon's here.
Landon's here, okay. If,
Landon, can you come up and?
So Coleman and Sons, Blasting and Painting, they're the ones that submitted the quote. So they submitted a quote just for the blasting, a quote for the painting, and then if we did both projects, they would take off 15%. So, so the total ended up being $61,698 dollars, but then minus the 15%, we're looking at $52,443.30. Just a abrasive blast the pool all the way down to the starting concrete, and then 2 layers of paint on top of that. And then also, I mean, they even said as soon as we start blasting this down, getting to the original concrete, there's probably gonna be some concrete repairs that need to happen, filling some cracks, and stuff like that. So those are the numbers that we did get from them.
Thank
so,
you.
which is why, after the discussion, we decided to go to $75,000, hopefully to cover any repairs and have that already appropriated now.
Yep.
Thank you.
They would like to start on this as quickly as they can. I move that we suspend the rules
Okay. we
to
have
the
a
3
motion.
reading rule.
All right, we have a motion to suspend, and we have Brian Robinson for the second. So we'll take a roll call. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All right, motion to adopt and a second.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Eads?
Yes, sir.
All right. 1, 2, Resolution 12322, motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Resolution 12323, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
So once again, this came out of Finance Committee. The bus garage, which sits here on city property, we do collect rent from them. I don't remember what that number is off the top of my head. Rex, do you happen to know that?
A little over 17,000 a year.
17,000, thank you. So $17,000 a year is what we collect in rent. They don't have a furnace in that building right now. We are their landlords, so we should probably, we need to make sure they have a furnace in case they need it. So that's why that was brought before council today with an emergency measure on it.
Okay.
I'll move to suspend the 3 reading rule.
We're all taking Rich's spotlight tonight. I'll second that.
And the second, okay.
I'm waiting.
I seen it.
All right. So we're going to, motion to suspend and a second. Mr. Stahl?
Second.
All right. No, well, we got a second, so
Okay.
we're doing
Yes.
roll call?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
And Mr. Eads?
Yes, sir.
All right, and a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt it.
Second.
All right. Motion to adopt, Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
12323 has been adopted. On to Resolution 12423. A motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Resolution 12423, sponsored by Rich Hayes, a resolution decreasing appropriation. Decreasing appropriation?
Decreasing, yes. Originally, we'd appropriated to purchase a new plow truck. Was more necessary. We had approved $230,000. So we've got $13,235.34 coming back to us that they did not need. So we need to put that back into 242-60054-001, equipment lease and purchase.
Okay. And our wishes here?
So did we get that ordered? I'm assuming we got the truck ordered then? Okay.
Yes.
Good. So what are our wishes here?
Go ahead, Rich.
I make a motion to adopt it.
Bypass the three reading rule?
You want to suspend it?
Okay.
Bypass.
Make a motion to bypass the 3 reading rule. I apologize, I'm getting tired.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to bypass. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt and a second. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right. All right, 1-2, Resolution 12523, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Resolution 12523, sponsored by Rich Hayes, a resolution increasing appropriations.
Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to reappropriate this $13,235.34. What we're going to do is we're going to reappropriate it to buy pumps and tanks to install on the 3 city trucks so that they can do a process called wetting. It's wetting system. What this does, it puts down a salt brine solution or beet juice, as they call it. You put that down before snows and potential ice storms. It's a safety thing. That's why it came to the safety committee. So what we'd like to do is go ahead and get this done so they can get this equipment and get it on the trucks.
All right, any discussion? All right, what are our wishes?
I make a motion to the 3 reading rule.
Second.
All right.
To
first and
bypass
second.
that.
Yep, first and second to bypass 3 reading rule. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, motion to adopt and a second. Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
And Mr. Eads?
Yes.
All right, so 12523 has been adopted. On to ordinance 12623, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance 12623, sponsored by Josh Peters, an ordinance amending ordinance 19319, setting the salaries for parks and recreation employees.
Yeah, currently our minimum wage, or our minimum pay for these Parks and Rec positions are below the minimum wage, and we need to bump those up to minimum wage. So what we're proposing here is as you can see on the attachment, the minimum hourly rate will be minimum wage from here on out, and then onto our maximum hourly rates.
Okay, yeah, 'cause we want to at least make sure that we're paying minimum wage, so that's, so what are our wishes here?
I'll make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule.
Second.
All right, first and second, roll call for suspension. Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
And Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Move to
Motion
adopt.
to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, we have a first and second for adoption. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right. 1-2, Resolution 12723, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Resolution 12723, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to sell property unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for municipal purposes via internet auction.
Yeah, so the Parks and Recreation Department, they have property that is unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for its purposes. And it's estimated to exceed $1,000, so therefore, we'd like to auction these off over the internet, probably like Gov Deals. And there's 40-plus items.
Not a good question.
Yes.
Is this equipment from the building that was demolished, or just the city in general?
Yes.
I can answer this. So this is some gym items like the hoops, scoreboard, padding, just anything that was worth value out of the old school and old gymnasium. I know there were some social media posts saying that, you know, why didn't you let people come in and take all the chairs and desks and all? If you remember, when the city took over that building, and then about 10 years ago, there was a big auction that the city held around 10 years ago, and people came in and bought pretty much anything in the school that was worth any value in a live auction scenario. So this is for anything that is worth value, and there was really nothing left in the building when we started demolishing it that was worth any value.
Any other questions? Okay, what are our wishes here?
Make a motion to suspend 3 reading rule on it.
Second?
All right, first and second. Roll call, Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
And Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, motion to adopt and second. Roll call for adoption, Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right, Resolution 12823, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second?
All right. Resolution 12823, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution authorizing the advertisement for bid for personal property no longer needed for city purposes.
Yeah, the street department has a 1999 International dump truck with a plow that they no longer use. So it's going to be a sealed bids to sell this truck and plow.
Okay, do you have any questions on 12823? Okay, what are our wishes here?
Go ahead and suspend the 3 reading rule.
Second?
All right, first and second. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, motion to adopt and second. Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Resolution 12923, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second?
All right. Resolution 12923, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution authorizing the Board of Public Utilities to purchase a pump sludge digester with a, we don't want that. Pump sludge digester with a cost in excess of the $25,000 limitation.
So I believe it would be a disaster if we didn't have the spare pump, but
It would be.
Mr. Duncan's here just in case he can give us a little bit of update why he's asking for this.
In the wastewater plant, every piece of equipment that is critical has a redundant, an extra pump. So we have 2 of these pumps in the digester basement, and one of the pumps failed, and we had to send it out to get it repaired, and it took about a year to get it repaired. So that left us with 1 pump. It's pretty critical for our operation. And when we finally got it back and we got it put in, we noticed the other pump probably needs some work on it too. So we'd like to have a spare pump that we can put in place. Everything's getting more expensive, and it takes a long time to get new pumps. So we thought we would go ahead and get this pump, but the amount is over $25,000. So we're requesting approval to get this new pump that would be a spare, or would allow us to repair the other pump that may need some repair.
And as you guys know, out of general fund money, if anything's over $50,000, we have to come to you for approval to spend the money. Well, through the BPU, anything over $25,000 has got to come to city council to authorize the spending But this is his funds, and he has the funds to purchase the equipment.
Okay.
Well, I'd make a motion to bypass the three reading rule. I think this is something we need to get, and as soon as we can, with the delays and things that are going on, so.
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right, first and second to suspend. All right, Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
And Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, motion to adopt and second. Mr. Eads?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Hitt?
Yes.
And Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan, thank you for
Thank
the,
you.
thank you for the foresight to plan for this so that we don't have that problem come up later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to Resolution 130-23, a motion to read by title or number.
I'll make a motion to read by title and number.
Second.
Resolution 130-23, sponsored by Andrew Hitt, a resolution adopting the recommendations of the Planning Commission for a preliminary development plan.
So this involves the real estate kind of between Eagleton and Kenny Road out to 38. The Planning Commission has already approved the development of that housing development area, and it also needs to come through council. So that's basically the reason for it coming through here.
All right, and then it'll need a public hearing.
Yes,
As
the April 6th.
April 6th, public hearing for 130-23. Any further
So
questions?
this will be the first phase of that? Is this Lexington Green?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that correct? I seen the attachment earlier. I don't have it open yet, but this is.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so,
Renty, okay.
this is already zoned PUD, correct? So it's already zoned PUD. This is just their preliminary development plan, which will be their final plan. And so that's why it has to come to you guys. They had a couple changes, and those are reflected.
All right, thank you.
Are they planning on starting anytime soon, or?
They have not indicated. I think they want to set the plan up and then start working for developers. So this is coming through MTB, who is the landowner. It's not, they are not developers. So they will work with a housing builder to come in and start building these. But they're just getting their plans ready at this point.
So do you know if they're planning on starting over at Eagleton or continuing on at Eagleton first?
Probably whichever area they can sell first.
Did you get your letter, Mr. Peters, since you're on the list?
I did.
Okay. We can check that off the box, right? You got your letter.
For the planning,
Oh, for the plan, yeah. Yeah, we send out public notice for planning.
yes.
All right. Any further discussion on 130-23? Okay, on to ordinance 131-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, I seen that earlier.
Okay. Ordinance 131-23, sponsored by John Stahl, an ordinance amending official zoning map.
This is the one they talked about on Lincoln Avenue and all that section, make it from B1 to R3. It's a section you might be anybody that's been here a long time, used to a little grocery there, and that's how it got B1 down that way. And I think they use it as a home now, don't they?
Correct. So what we found out was this small section that has houses on it is currently a B1. And it, like as Mr. Stahl just said, it was because there was a business in that district at one time. Now, that business, which is really a house, is, they wanted designated as a house to make it easier for selling or doing whatever. And when we were looking into this, that's when we found out that the whole block that I spoke about earlier is a B1. So we just don't want to hang anybody up if they go to sell their house and it's in a business district and not a residential district. And everything, as you can see from the map, everything around it is residential, and that's just a tiny little square of business district.
Public
That also
hearing,
needs a public hearing.
April 6th.
April 6th.
April 6th as well. All right. On to roundtable. Begin with Mr. Stahl.
We passed a lot of very good things today. It's a very, kind of a high point for the city for a good while. London Landing, Lexington Green, Palte Development, the apartments coming along. I think our population is gonna be increasing the next couple of years. And with all the sewer and water and all that, very needed and very much, I'm glad we did it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hitt?
I'd like to thank the BPU for being here and answering any questions that needed answered. And that, just in general, the people that are here showing an interest in what's going on in the city, just once again, thank you for being here. That's it.
All right, Mr. Hayes?
Thank everybody for coming out, BPU guys for being here. I know Carol's been here since 8 o'clock this morning, and she's probably getting tired. But want to thank all city employees for jobs well done. We got a great city here. This is the start of it. This is the start of it. Things are going to start coming, and we just got to be ready for it. Like I said a couple of months ago, got to have sewer, got to have water, got to have police, and you got to have fire. You got those 4 things, your city's going to grow. You got the houses, you got people interested in moving here. I sat with some people the other night at the Red Brick, and they live in Dublin. Great city. I used to be a police officer there. Great city. They're wanting to move to London now. So, and they've got a daughter and a son-in-law that are thinking about moving out here too. So, anyway, it's coming. Just gotta be ready for it. I want to thank all my council members here. You guys are great. I love y'all. It's been a long night. I'm tired. I just want to ask the Lord to bless this city, bless everybody that lives here, watch over us, take care of us, and that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Mr. Robinson?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the BPU and you guys for all your hard work. I know it's been a long time coming to get these plans put together. I'm glad that you stayed with it. That's about all I got.
All right, thank you. Mr. Peters?
Yeah, I'm excited for the future, especially with the infrastructure. I'm excited to see what's coming in London, how it's growing. It's going to be neat to see.
Yeah.
So that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Eads?
So we received a letter from a lady today, I know the mayor received it also, who objected to the raising of the rates. I didn't see where she asked us to read it, so I didn't read it. She feels that she's gonna have to make a decision between this and the fire department. So I bring this up because I hope we don't really have to make that decision. If you don't know, the ballot initiative that we as council passed, it was approved, so it is gonna go on for the income tax to pay for the fire department. I really hope that we don't have, and people don't feel that they have to make that decision, because we have a fire department, we need to have a fire department, and we know that the problems they've had have been years in the making, and that they're gonna need help financially. So I'm just asking that people think about that and realize that we do need the fire department moving forward. I wanna thank the folks for coming today, I appreciate that. I mean, everybody came and, for the last 2 meetings, you came and had great discussions and brought up great points, and you had valid viewpoints. I really do believe that, so thanks everybody for coming.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to thank BPU for all of their hard work. You know, sometimes these decisions are not easy, and they're not easy to make. It's a lot different when you're on this side of it and you're on that side of it. But I do like to thank all of the input from the community, because we could not make this decision without you. We made some changes and adjustments by listening to some of the objections of the community. So I like to thank council here. Thank you guys for working so hard together here and working with the community to help improve our city. Just like to, thank everyone for all of their work in helping us to not kick the can further down the road. I am so glad that we are able to at least get that part done. And I know there's a lot more that we need to do, but I see, that we are willing to put all the work in that we need in order to progress and help the city move forward. So thanks to you guys, thanks to BPU, thanks to the community. And with that, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Shortest meeting.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, man, for coming tonight. I know
Normally
you
this-
feel good. I'm glad
I
you're
have-
here.
Cause I have this situation I do for my shoulder, so I set my arm every night for it. And normally,
Did you?
it goes off about halfway through.